Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Spiritist Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, we have our special guest, Joaquim Eleuterio, who will discuss the Spiritist mission. But before we turn it over to Joaquim, let us do our opening prayer. If you can, please close your eyes. Dear God, dear Jesus, our dear beloved mentors, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for each and every day as an opportunity to embrace life. May we be surrounded by the good spirits, and may we do our best each and every day to be in harmony with the good, even when the unexpected occurs. Please bless our families. Please bless our friends. May each of us, no matter what we go through, have the support that we need. May we seek the path toward you, dear God, and may we be in harmony with our peace. Amen. And now, let us introduce Joaquim Eleuterio. Hi, Joaquim. How are you doing?
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Good. So before Joaquim brings his words of teaching to us, please allow me to introduce him more formally. Joaquim has been a part of the Spiritist movement since childhood. He is a member of the board of directors of Neecafla, a Spiritist center in Brussels, Belgium. He is responsible for the Fraternal Assistance. He also teaches a course in French on Spiritist principles and practices. Furthermore, he works as a medium within a mediumistic group. Finally, he is a lecturer on Spiritist topics in Portuguese, French, and English. Joaquim graduated in economics from New York University. He also has a master's degree in business administration and management from Boston University and VUB, which is Free University of Brussels. In addition, he has a master's degree in international relations from ULB, which is Université Libre de Bruxelles. He is also a U.S. Army veteran. Thank you for being here, Joaquim.
Thank you, Peter.
Great. So remember, everyone, to please send in your questions because we will open up for questions after his talk. Okay, Joaquim, it's all yours.
Thank you, Peter, for this nice introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank the United States Spiritist Federation for this invitation, for the opportunity that it has given me to be here today. It is personally a very important time because the United States has played a very crucial role in my life and maybe even in past lives. So I'm very happy to be here today talking at least partially to an audience in the United States. I also like to thank Jussara, João, Tanya, Peter, and Danielle that have helped me with these presentations and with these discussions today. So without further ado, I'd like to start then with my topic, which is the Spiritist mission. And I first like to pose a certain number of questions. When we have sometimes in the middle of the night a sort of spiritual or existential pain, we pose ourselves the question, who are we? Where are we from? Or where are we going? What are we doing here on Earth? And what are our tasks? What are our missions? And most of us have been confronted with these questions. And obviously, we have looked at the Spiritist philosophy and science to answer some of these questions. And we as humans, we need to find these answers. We need, because we have reason. And reason forces us to try to understand the environment around us. We as Christians also need to find answers. We as Spiritists also need to find answers. And then looking at these questions, I was looking at the Gospel according to Spiritism on chapter 20, item 4. And that is an instruction from a spirit there called Erasto. He made these instructions in 1863. And Erasto basically talks about the Spiritist mission, what he saw at that issue at that time. We always also have to remember that in order to be included in the gospel, obviously not just the opinion of this particular spirit, but it has to have what Kardec called conversions, which is many spirits with different mediums would state this sort of opinion, and then Kardec would gather this information and put it on the book. So basically what we have here is the spoken words of the superior spirits. And he talks about then the missions and tasks of the Spiritists. And he said that we all have a quest. And we need to evolve as spirits, because when we are within a body, we're still a spirit. We need to get closer to God. And as we evolve from incarnation to incarnation, from periods also on the other side, in the spiritual world, we get closer and closer to God. If we elevate ourselves, if we evolve ourselves, if we learn how to improve ourselves as spirits and as human beings. So, but one of the major things that we need to do is to increase our capacity to love. Increase our capacity to love, because love is the most important sentiment. And there are 3 dimensions to love, which I like to sort of to review with you. The first one is obviously loving God above all things. Loving God above all things. You need to love God above all things. And then you have to learn how to love yourself. Learning how to love yourself is important. It doesn't mean that you have to look at the mirror and every morning and say, oh, how wonderful I am. No, you have to be at ease with yourself. You have to be a friend of yourself. You have to have no self-hate. A lot of us have that problem. Sometimes our worst enemies is ourselves. And we have to accept who we are, how we are, improve those things that we can improve, and obviously accept those things that we cannot improve. And we need to really to be at ease with our spiritual state, always trying to improve it, always trying to ameliorate it, but be at ease with yourself. And this would then allow us to get to the 3rd step, which is loving others as we would love ourselves. Because if you don't love yourself, then you're going to have a problem loving others, obviously, because you're going to be blocked somewhere along the way. And we also need to increase our capacity to forgive. Forgiveness is a form of love. And we need to then pay evil with goodness, and practice forgiveness, because forgiveness opens doors for us. It allows us then to unblock a certain number of negative feelings that we have. It allows us, for example, to compensate things that we have done, harm that we have done to other people in the past. It allows us then to evolve, become better spirits and better human beings. And it also, at every time that you forgive someone, you basically take out a weight from your own back. So if you want to move forward, you have to increase this capacity to forgive along your quest. Imagine, for example, a knight in the Middle Ages is going on his quest, and he has all kinds of heavy things on his horse, not only his armor, but also bags and all kinds of heavy objects that he's carrying. So in order for him to advance quicker, he has to get rid of some of those things. And in order to do that, one of the greatest tools that you can use is to forgive people. And so that you can look forward instead of just looking back in anger. So the Spiritist mission is that we have received the good news. We have received the good news. We have received the words of Moses in the first revelation, the words of Jesus in the second revelation, and the words of the superior spirits in the third revelation in the middle of the 19th century. But at the same time, we have been given the gift of reason. As you know, we are allowed to reason. And when we think of the expression cogito ergo sum, which is I think, therefore I am, we know that we can think. We have to understand where we are and not just accept some received wisdom from Moses or from Jesus, but we have to understand what we're going. So we can reason and understand before we accept. We know the truth then. We know the truth. And therefore we have greater responsibility. We have greater responsibilities than others who have not learned this truth. We have no excuses. We have absolutely no excuses. We have no alibis. So you cannot hide behind ignorance because you have been informed, you learned. Principally us as Spiritists. And also talks about a storm that will rage on earth. This storm will rage on earth and it will eliminate evil. It will eliminate injustice. And there will be what I call a planetary redevelopment or planetary reset. And when we think of the present times, we see that maybe that is happening now. We are seeing change. We are seeing qualitative change in the way that the earth is being advanced, or is the way that the earth is moving. And Spiritists have to keep up with these tendencies, have to keep up with these changes. We are then the apostles of the beliefs revealed by the superior spirits. And we have to speak of reincarnation, for example. To be born, to die, to be born again, and to progress infinitely. So we need to speak that we have various lives and to explain to people and explain to other people around or to ourselves that we have multiple lives. And that will allow us then to understand what is happening to us in this particular life. And spiritual development will be a function of the good performance of our missions or the bad performance of our missions. If we do well, our spirit will rise. If we don't do well, they will not rise as fast, or maybe even stagnate for a while. And also how we endure the trials and atonements of the world, be it material world or the spiritual world, because we have to work on both sides. When we are here in the material world, we have to work. We have to try to improve ourselves. And spiritual development, when we are incarnate, comes from study, comes from work, and comes from suffering. But obviously, when you are incarnate, there is your progress is much greater because you have to deal with the limitations of matter that do not allow you, for example, to keep all your memories. So, for example, you have to forgive in the absence of memory. You have to love in the absence of memory. So that will gives an acceleration to the way that you are developing yourself. But at the same time, when you are in the spiritual world, you also have to work, you also have to study, and you also may have to suffer. But there again, that would be a different view, because there you have your memories. You have an idea of where you were and where you were before. So it's a different, the obligation to continue to forge ahead, to improve yourself, will continue on both sides. We, as Spiritists, have to help the world to evolve. And we have to help in the construction of the universe. And a friend of mine used to say that any system, be it the world, be it the universe, evolves at the speed of the slowest. So we have an obligation to help those that are behind, those that need help, because the system will only move forward in function of their speed as well. Don't just think of yourself. Don't just think of those that are around you. Think of also those that have difficulty moving ahead. we have to preach the divine words. We will have to sacrifice our habits, our work, our pleasures, our futile activities. But the superior spirits would always be with us. They would always be near us. They would always be helping us. And we will talk to those who don't want to listen. Sometimes when you talk, people are not there. They're just not there. Those who don't want to sacrifice themselves. They don't want to put the energy necessary to change, for example, to change from within. Because sometimes it is very difficult, very painful to change from the inside. You have to do this quest also towards the interior of yourself, so that any changes that you make will allow you to become better naturally. We will preach disinterest to misers, abstinence to the dissolute, meekness to tyrants, pardon to the vindictive. And many words will be lost. You know, if you think about John the Baptist, for example, he was in the middle of the desert, but he was preaching. He was worrying about the main message, that a Messiah would come and that things would change. So he was there in the middle of the desert. So when we are preaching, when we are talking to people, continue your mission, persevere, continue to do what you have to do. Make your message as clear, as forcefully as you can, so that you can be a part of the change, so that you can be a part of the change. And we will water with our sweat the soil to be sown. You know, sometimes, for example, here in Europe, it's very, very difficult, but the soil is very dry, very arid. And it's very, very difficult sometimes, principally if we are worried about our own vanity, our own pride. Sometimes very difficult to talk to people. But remember, every time you make a presentation, every time you try to present something in a spiritist sense, there are also the invisible ones that are there, and they're also your audience. And even if you have to make a presentation to nobody, you still be reaching those people, those brothers who are disincarnate. They are there. So we will water with our sweat the soil to be sown, but the soil will bear good fruits if it is well sown. So if the message is good, the fruits will be good and will come out at some point in time. So persevere, continue to do it. We should always have love in our hearts and carry the words of Jesus and the words of the superior spirits. And obviously we have to give the example by our conduct. Talk is cheap. You can say whatever you want, but you have to be able to conduct yourself according to these principles. So if you say that people should be meek, but then all of a sudden you become very angry and you blow up every chance you get, then there is a distance that is there that you need to correct. So make sure that you give a good example of a good spiritist, of a good Christian. So there has to be agreement between words and conduct. Extremely important for any spiritist. So let us go forth against injustice, against evil, against moral corruption. Let us be simple and humble, just as Jesus said. Sometimes, we come to the world just to learn how to be humble and simple, but we still continue to insist on being full of pride and vanity. So let us be simple and humble. But one of the things that you should be looking out for is that many times the The superior spirits will send you examples of people that are simple, that are humble. And just keep your eyes out. Sometimes you see them. You see them in a dream, or you see them on the street. And I've seen some examples like that, and some of them I ignored, and unfortunately, but I learned a lot from some of these examples. So try to do it. Try to see these examples that the superior spirits send to you from time to time. Let us also speak without fear. Don't be afraid of what you believe. Don't be afraid of what you believe. Let us become messengers in the name of God. Let us become messengers. We are messengers. Let us be God's workers. That is a tremendous mission. That is fantastic missions. Let us lose the fear of judgment. Do not be afraid of being judged by other people. Sometimes people will judge you. Sometimes maybe you will lose a friend here and there because you have taken this new lifestyle that they don't like. But, persevere. Let us lose the fear of reprisals. And sometimes there are reprisals, of course. Sometimes they're professional reprisals. Sometimes there are family reprisals. Sometimes there are, as I said, friends that, just don't accept that you are a spiritist. Don't accept that you are someone that wants to dedicate his or her life to God. And let us combat our own pride. A lot of the problems that we have in the world originate with pride, originate with vanity. So let us combat that within ourselves. And you will see that it's much easier when you control your pride, when you control your vanity, it's much easier for you to move ahead. We must speak then to enhance love, to console, to create fraternity among men, among human beings, among spirits. Let us talk about peace rather than war. We must work with love, for love. Let us put God at the center of our lives. Let us put God at the center of our lives. Because if we do that, then we have the keys to real happiness. When we look at, for example, great mediums like Chico Xavier, or recently people like Lazareno Feitosa or Divaldo Franco, these are happy people because they are working for love with love. But they may have problems, physical problems, for example. They may have anxieties. They may have all kinds of material problems. They may be rich or poor, but they are working in happiness. They found the keys to happiness. So this is very important. Put God at the center of your life. Let us put also charity at the center of our lives. Extremely important. Let us have in our heart reasoned faith. So let us believe without wanting to see. And when I say reasoned faith is that you understand first, and then you believe. You investigate, you understand, and then you believe. And then you don't need to see. You know that an intelligent consequence has to have an intelligent origin. So you see the universe, you see a lot of intelligent effects, intelligent consequences. So you know there is an intelligent source. And that is the feeling that allows you to understand God. Let us believe because we understood, not because we have received some tenet, some instruction. We believe because we understood. Let us accept the fact of mediumship. Mediumship exists, is a gift that all of us have. We all incarnate spirits, so we all between the material world and the spiritual world. But some of us have mediumship as a task. Some of us have mediumship as a mission. And even though anyone can be a medium, we have all different degrees of abilities. I will never be like Chico Xavier because I don't have that. I never received that mission. But I can try to develop that because that is the best way for you to be charitable towards the incarnate spirits. If you have received the task of being a medium, then work on it. Don't run from it. Don't try to hide from it. By the way, you cannot hide from it. If you have received mediumship as a task, you cannot hide from it. It will catch you up. So make sure that you understand that that is the best way for you to be charitable to the incarnate spirits. Because, for example, you're giving them a voice. You allow them, for example, to speak to those who are here. You allow them to forgive or be forgiven. So you are basically being charitable. So let us accept the facts of mediumship. Let us accept our physical burdens. The body is the body, and the body always has the right age. The body has always the right age. Accept your body the way it is at any point in your life. Obviously, you try to take care of it because it is a tool. It's not an end. It is a tool that God gave you to accomplish your mission. God gave this body to you, or to anyone here, to accomplish your task, to accomplish your mission. So use it as best as you can. Take care of it. But there are things that you cannot change. So live with it. Live with it. And try to change only those things that you can change. For example, you can learn a new language. You can learn music. You can improve yourself intellectually. But, you cannot change the color of your skin. It's difficult to do it. Really is. So accept the way you are. And you know that a lot of the inadequacies that the society will tell you is just does not apply to you because you have a spiritual essence. And that is the most important thing. Your spiritual essence is the most important thing. The body is just an envelope that someday will be discarded. So let us accept our physical burdens. Let us also accept our spiritual burdens, because sometimes we do have spiritual burdens, and the burdens we have are the burdens that we should have in order for us to improve ourselves here on earth. The Son of God, Jesus, would always be our guide. It will always be our guide. Let us march together, united by a common faith. Jesus said that faith moves mountains. Faith moves mountains. But faith moves more than mountains. It moves heavier feelings than the heaviest mountains. It moves impurity, it moves all vices. And we have to move these mountains of evil, of iniquity, of injustice. Faith is the best remedy for our ills. If you have faith, reasoned faith, then you're already working towards improving yourself. You're working towards curing yourself. And Erastus said moral and philosophical revolutions will appear all over the world. And he said that almost 160 years ago. The divine light will shine upon the world of today and the world of the future. It will shine on God's time, not on human time, obviously. Sometimes, we hear about all these changes on earth, and we want it to happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but we are on God's time, and God's time is infinite. So it will happen maybe tomorrow, but it may also take a few thousand years to happen. So let us continue our quests and take the divine words to every corner of the earth, to every corner of the universe. To the great, we will disdain them. Many times the great don't want to accept it. to the wise who want to prove them. And you cannot prove them. You cannot prove the existence of God, because a finite being like man or women cannot prove an infinite being. To the simple and meek, as Jesus said, who will accept them. And when I say simple and meek, it does not mean necessarily educated or uneducated. It simply means people who are simple in heart, meek. They have an absence of vanity, an absence of pride. Let us decide. The time has come. The time has come. There is no time to waste. There is no time to waste. Let us have the courage to be spiritists. Let us have the courage. Let us have faith in God and in the words of Jesus. Let us thank God for the task he has entrusted us, because he has entrusted us with a series of tasks. Let us always seek the truth. Always seek the truth. Don't be afraid of the truth. Let us not lose ourselves, because we need to take the right path. We need to take the right path. And if we change inside and become naturally good, for example, we always take the right path. Let us practice the two principles of charity: consoling the afflicted, dedicating love to others, demonstrating selflessness and altruism. Let us be recognized for the victory of our principles over evil, evil that lives within ourselves, because we are in a world of light and darkness. We are in a world that evil is supposed to predominate. Let us help God's laws to triumph on earth. Let us be responsible for what happens here. If you want to change the world, change yourself first. Let us finally remember that we live in a world of trials and atonements, in a world of light and darkness, in a world of sadness and happiness. We have all of that at the same time sometimes. And that only light can end darkness. If you want light, you have to shine in darkness. If you're carrying darkness within yourself, there is no space for light. If you're angry, if your heart is full of negative feelings, then there is no space for love. So if you want love to enter your heart, get rid of darkness, get rid of hate, get rid of anger. Let us therefore enlighten with our love and the words of Jesus the path that will lead us to a perfect world of love and justice. And to finalize, I'd like to say that each one of us has received from God, in this particular incarnation, a mission, a task. Missions are rare, obviously. They are given to superior spirits, but we all have tasks. Sometimes a very simple task. Sometimes it's just allowing us to compensate a mistake that we made in past life. And obviously, sometimes we receive within our families really those people that we need to learn to love, and to forgive and to find a compensation. So let us really try to do that. But at the same time, let us take the responsibility as spiritists that we have to help the world to move forward, to help those that are in need, to help those that are being persecuted. And as Jesus gave the example, he loved everyone. He loved everyone unconditionally. So the first thing that we need to do is to begin to love people unconditionally. And if we arrive at the point that we can love people unconditionally, not just love your family, not just love your friends, but love those that are different from you, that are far from you, those have you just met. If you do that, I'm sure that you will find happiness in this life, but the real happiness will be yours when you approach God, when you become a pure spirit in the future. So take this opportunity. Thank God for everything that God gives you here on earth. And that will help you then move forward in this incarnation and in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. So I believe we do have some questions.
Yes.
And let us see what we have here. Okay, the first question. It can be very frustrating when we try to help people and they push us away. How should we respond when this happens?
Well, I think that there are two things that you have to take into account. The first is yourself, because nobody can make you feel anything without permission. So if you go towards someone and you get rejected, and that rejection affects you as a person, then somewhere within your being there is a weakness that allows that negative feeling to really touch you. Okay, so that is the first thing to do. But obviously, sometimes we think we are helping someone, but we may not be. The first thing that one has to do when you want to help someone is, first of all, to listen. Listen. If I had the power to create a new man, I would create a man with enormous ears and a small mouth. Okay, so that he would listen a lot and speak not a lot. And sometimes what do we do when we want to help people? We start giving them solutions to our own problems, what we tried in the past. We try to give them counseling without it, when people haven't asked. So first, lend a friendly ear. Listen to what they have to say. It is very important to listen. It's an art. It's very difficult. I had a very hard time learning how to listen, but because I normally talk a lot, so I have a very hard time to listen to people. But try to listen, and then try to help. If the person asks for help, you are there to help them. But listen first.
That's a very good point. It's an example of how, as we try to help others, we're in many ways also helping ourselves or working on things that we too need to work on.
Yes, yes. Yeah. The other point is that every time you help someone, you're also helping yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay? So think of it that way. You try to help someone, okay, what I tell people when they put this question to me is that, let's say you try something and you were rejected. Well, your situation hasn't changed. It's still the same. Okay? Hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is your reaction to what the person has done. So your situation hasn't changed. You're still the same person. But if you become sad, angry, then it's your reaction.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see if we have another question. This is from Via Carix. I find evangelizing very difficult because I myself have so much to work on before I can be the example of a follower of Jesus. So what about that?
It's a very important point. Don't wait until you're perfect before you start. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. She was forgiven by God, by Jesus, and she started her work at her level. Paul did the same, and so on. So the way to do it is to begin. But as I said before, you have to be coherent with the message. So if you say, let's say, don't steal, but you steal of your, at your office or at home and so on, then there is something that is not working. So you always have to be coherent with the message. But start small, but start. don't wait until you're perfect, because it's going to take a long time for you to be perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. See if we have another question. This is from Paula Craig. I have read, whether they believe us or not, we do plant a seed. It might be a very small seed, but indeed we plant this seed and it will grow. So is that true?
This is the hope we have. This is the hope we have. When you go, let's say you go into the desert and you throw seeds everywhere. And this is what's happening, for example, here in Europe. We are throwing seeds everywhere. And maybe down the road, one day there will be rain. And some of these seeds will come into fruition, and it will have flowers. Sometimes when you look at the soil, you think there is nothing there. But, you have to continue to sow the seeds. And if the seeds are good, then the flowers, the fruits, the trees will be good. So this is the hope we have. We always have to hope that what we are planting today will give good results now or later on.
Yes, and in a way we have to also not try to worry about it too much either.
Yes, exactly. Well, people have to be patient. Sometimes they want immediate satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes you have to be patient and see what's going to come down in a few years, in a few months, and so on.
Exactly. Okay, next question. This is from Paul Jacoby. Hi, Paul. How are you doing? The question in my mind is how to stay at a high vibration consistently. I can't see how I can do much good until I can remain positive when faced with people who I don't really connect with.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's difficult, but maybe what I don't know you, Paul, but the first thing that one has to do is try to understand who you are. How come you don't connect with certain people? Why don't you connect? Have you started to change from the inside? Sometimes we arrive in a particular incarnation with very heavy baggage. We are easy to anger, for example. Sometimes we see people that have done terrible things to us in a past life, or that we have done some very bad things to them. But what the most important thing is to try to understand who you are, to understand, to start this process of changing from within. And when you change from within, then it becomes much easier for you to connect with people. It becomes much easier to stay at a high vibration, for example. But it has to be natural. It has to come from the inside. It's not something that you can, it's like a sentiment. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to love tomorrow. You can't do that. You have to feel love. So if you want to connect with people, you have to start somewhere, and that place that you start with is with yourself. Try to understand who you are. Sometimes you need help from even a professional. For example, a psychoanalyst or a psychologist. Sometimes you can use, in a spiritual house, you can go and talk to people that will help you to try to understand who you are. But you have to be changing yourself using the principles of Spiritism, so that you understand that sometimes you have to. For example, I know that I always have to control my temper. Always have to control my temper. Because if I don't control my temper, from time to time, it will burst. So I always try to do that. But I realize that I have this problem. So I try to control it. And this is the way that will allow you to improve little by little how you relate to people. The other way that you can improve that is by working to help people. Because when you love people, when you practice charity, you receive love in return. Remember the law of action and reaction. When you love somebody, the person will love you right back. So try to do that. Try to work with love, within love, so that as you do that, you will see that you connect much easier to people.
Mm-hmm. It seems like one of the themes for today is that we don't need to be perfect in order to make a difference.
Yes, yeah. I'm perfect, but you guys.
Yes, right, exactly.
Of course.
Okay, another question. Why are pride and selfishness the two biggest obstacles to our spiritual progress?
Yes, well, if I knew the answer, the perfect answer for that, I would be a much higher spirit than I am. Because one of the missions I received for this particular life was to learn how to control my pride and my selfishness. But essentially, pride is a trigger to selfishness. What is mine. What is yours, we divide, we share. Okay? So, and pride is a terrible, terrible enemy of the human spirit, because it controls what people do, it controls what nations do, it controls what societies do to each other. So the first thing that you need to understand is that pride is not your friend. Pride is not your friend. Sometimes, you see people saying, I am proud of what I did, da, da, da. And when you do that, then you fool it, you burst, you fill yourself with air, essentially. And all of a sudden there is a trigger that says, okay, this is mine. For example, let's talk about even a spiritual center. The work that we do doesn't belong to us. It's the word of God, it's the work of God. So a lot of people identify, this is my work, my piece of things. It goes with the ego. So I think it is very important that we try and become, to chase away pride from who we are. And this will allow us then to be more generous. And as we become more generous, you'll see that life is much easier, in fact. It is difficult to do it in a modern society, of course, because modern society is very individualistic. And we have a tendency to say mine is mine and, to fight the other guy. But this is the way to go forward. You just try to say, okay, what is mine, I share. I have to do my best. And, somebody, you need to be able to go beyond pride towards love, towards humbleness, extremely important. Sometimes, people equate humbleness with weakness, with stupidity even, which is, Jesus was humble, but he was not weak, absolutely not. So this is, Gandhi was humble, but he was not a weak man. And don't worry about, one of the things that combats humbleness, pride is, for example, always say to yourself, I'm not what I do. I am not what I do. This chair here is only a chair that God gave me for a mission. This position as a high-level executive is only a means to an end that God gave me so that I can help other people. So if you go about life like that, it'll be much easier.
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing process, to be sure.
It's an ongoing process, yes, of course.
Okay, another question from Via Carix. Does the evolution of our soul in each life begin in an egocentric manner on purpose, where we believe that outside sources have a stronger power than our inner power?
Well, first, this is a complicated question, but let me start with the first part. Uh, when God created us, he could have created puppets, what he would control everything. So what he did was he created. Let's imagine there is a book, and this book is the spirit, and the book is empty. So God gave us free will so that we can write our own history. Now, the ego is something that came in really in the 20th century with Freud, but the human spirit is there building this book, creating this book. And we start with no knowledge, and little by little we increase this knowledge. But God always tells us to share that our progress is not a progress only of one spirit, but a collection of spirits, all the spirits in the universe, all the spirits in that particular world, what they're living on. So you can evolve as a spirit by helping others evolve themselves. And this is the key. If you want to evolve as a spirit, you have to help others also evolve. Let me take well, I don't know what he means by outside sources have a stronger power than our inner power. I'm not sure I understand what he's saying here. The outside sources, let's say that if we imagine that the outside sources are all the things that we are confronted with, either in the spiritual world or in the material world, then the only way for us to move forward is to increase this inner power. Okay? As we evolve as a spirit, our inner power gets stronger, not weaker. And we are then able to face any challenge. If we are strong internally as spirits, then we can face any challenge. If we have, for example, a strong spirit, we can face disease, we can face even death, we can face that, but we can face all kinds of challenges as we move forward. But the most important thing is to note that as we develop as spirits, our inner power increases. So as your inner power increases, then it becomes easier for you to move forward. But, we go from world to world. And in this world here, it's very, very difficult sometimes to face what is before us. But if we're strong inside, then we have a chance.
I like how you put that. It almost sounds like in the beginning, maybe we learn more externally by relying upon outside sources, but then as we develop internally, that's what we need to be grounded. And then later on, hopefully, the more we strengthen ourselves internally, we can then turn around and help others, which is an external process.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have another question from the U.S. Spiritist Federation. In what way do our actions today plant seeds for the future?
Look, I think it's as I said before, sometimes you have to spread the seeds. I remember many years ago, I was watching a particular presentation by someone in Brazil. And I looked at that presentation, and that planted a seed in my head that I needed to go to live, for example, to come to the US, for example. And that completely changed my life. So we never know when we plant what kind of fruits we will see, but we have to try. We have to do it as much as we can. And this is why I dedicate my life today to do that, is to try to plant the seeds. Now, maybe I will inspire someone in the future, somebody close by in my family or somebody far away in another country. For example, when we make these talks, we talk to people for example, in Africa, in Brazil, etc. So maybe if I can inspire someone in a faraway land to help his neighbor, then I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have accomplished something. So this is what we should do, regardless if we see an immediate result or not. We should try to go forth and face the world and spread those seeds.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I believe this is the last question, also from the United States Spiritist Federation. How can we help others if we feel like we have trouble following the example of Jesus?
Well, it is an eternal questioning of yourself. Jesus is the model. The model. You want to be like Jesus, but you know that you're not, and you never will be like Jesus. But you can still help others. You will have trouble. Of course, you will have trouble. All of us have trouble because the standard is so high. The standard is extremely high. If, for example, we still look at love in terms of different notes, different vibrations, for Jesus, it's just one love, unconditional love. We still condition love. So the day we are able to love people unconditionally, then we are a little bit closer to Jesus. But I don't have I feel that all I have to do is keep Jesus in mind and try to do the best I can using his example, his many examples, in order to help at my little level here those that are in need. But it's just he's the example to follow. He is the ideal that we have to strive for, knowing that we'll probably never get there. We get near, but we never get there.
Just need to keep trying.
Just keep trying, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Joaquim. Appreciate these answers very much. It's been great discussion.
It's been great to be here. Thank you very much.
And thank you, everyone who watches this live and those who have been following us every week. Next Saturday, January 22nd at 11 a.m., we will have Alvaro Mordechai, and the theme is going to be on Noah from a Spiritist perspective. So that should be wonderful.
That should be wonderful.
Also, I want to let all of you know about a special virtual course that we have this year that starts Sunday, January 23rd. It's called Initiation into Spiritism. Initiation into Spiritism is a course meant to all audiences, regardless of their previous knowledge about Spiritism or spirituality, and sympathizers in general, since it deals with several contemporary topics with clarity and depth. One quick glance at its program should reveal its thoroughness. Here are some examples: God, reincarnation, mediumship, and many others. With extraordinary scope, this study will cover dozens of relevant topics presented in 40 lessons, based on the book written by the renowned author Terezinha Oliveira, one of the major authorities in the field. This book just came out in English. Both beginners and current practitioners will find in this course, Initiation into Spiritism, the best understanding of Spiritism, thus building a safe path to reach the purest harmony in life. So, for more information, please visit the U.S. Spiritist Federation's website. That is spiritus.us/initiation-into-spiritism/. Or you can just go to the website as you see listed here and you should be able to find it. And now, before we end our live, Joaquim, can you please say our final prayer?
Yes, thank you. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you all and have a wonderful weekend.
So let us breathe deeply. Let's breathe rhythmically, trying to find a place of calm, a serenity within ourselves, a temple where we can feel love, where we can feel hope, where we can feel compassion. As we enter this temple, we're overwhelmed by light. We're overwhelmed by the beauty of the universe. And we can then share some of these feelings with all of those around us, be they incarnate or disincarnate. Let us send love throughout the universe to those that are in need, those in the spiritual world and those here on earth or in other worlds. Let us also send compassion to all of those that have wronged us in this life or in past lives. Let us send them this version of love, compassion, so that they know that they have been forgiven. Let us also think of all the nations in this world that are still caught up in pride, that are still moved by vanity. Let us send vibrations of love and understanding to all of those men and women who control these nations, so that peace could one day reign on this earth. Let us elevate our thoughts to Jesus, to thank Him for His legacy of love, for His legacy of sacrifice, for His legacy of light, a light that shines upon us and allows us to move forward towards a world of perfection, towards one day the nearness of God. Let us finally think of our Creator and ask Him to bless us and allow us to close these talks today. Amen.